Okay guys, what I'm about to make right now is a chicken karai, and the best thing about this entire dish is that it takes like 35 minutes to cook. So this dish actually comes from Pakistan and it's basically like street food because it's cooked on like a high heat, flash fried, done quite quick, so people can come on the go and like eat the food on the go. The main difference about this dish compared to other dishes is that it's actually done with just tomato base. So no onions in there, which means you can cook it a lot quicker. And also guys, this entire recipe is taken out of my curry cookbook, along with a lot more other curries that are there. You should definitely get it because it's worth every single penny, guys. I'm just saying. Anyways, let's get into it. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prep our tomatoes. Now we've got 5 vine tomatoes and they're quite large actually, but this entire recipe got no onions in here and that's why it's so quick. So you're going to get the tomatoes and you're going to cut them in half, and now this is what I like to call Operation Booty Hole Removal, because we're removing the root, or what I like to call the tomato booty hole. Now you don't have to do it, you don't have to remove it, but obviously it just makes for a smoother curry gravy at the end of the day. Now the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put a pan on high heat. Now I'm on the largest hob on the highest heat, not the highest heat setting, but like high heat. And then I put water in there. If it's like dancing around like that, like Michael Jackson, then you know that pan is ready. So I'm gonna put in 6 tablespoons of oil and then some whole spices. Now I've got 3 bay leaves, like 1 to 2 cinnamon sticks, and like 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns. And you can throw that in there, and then you're gonna shimmy the pan around and let that cook for about 30 seconds. And then from there, chicken breast going in, guys. Now it doesn't have to be chicken breast. Actually, ideally you want to put chicken thighs in there. You want to limit the amount of breast because it starts drying out the entire curry. Now the main thing I want to note here is, guys, please make sure you tap dry or pat dry your chicken before you put it in. If it's wet, it's going to splash everywhere and then medical emergency is going to be happening, guys. So once you've got that, you're going to put in a large pinch of salt and then you're going to mix it around. Now what you want to do is you want to like get the chicken, can you see the white bits coming through? Basically that. So about 3 to 4 minutes on like a medium high heat, you'll start seeing water releasing from the chicken and changing color. And then next we got garlic and ginger blocks. Now if you want to use fresh, you're going to use about 8 to 9 garlic cloves and about, I would say, like 1 large thumb size piece of ginger, and then you're going to crush it all and throw it in. But instead I use garlic and ginger blocks because it's 100%. It's like no preservatives, none of that. So it's very good to have and it makes your life easier. Then after you cook that off for 2 minutes, you're going to add in the tomato face down like this. Now you can also roughly blend the tomato and then put it in, but if you do that, you got to cook it off for about 5, 6, 7 minutes, so that raw flavor and taste of the tomato disappears basically. So instead what I'm doing is putting the tomato on, putting the lid on and simmering this on low heat for about 10 to 12 minutes, and that's gonna, as you can see now, it's gonna start softening the tomatoes. So you break the tomato down, remove the skin. See that technique? You didn't see that coming, did you? Now at this point, guys, add a large pinch of sugar if you want. I didn't because the tomatoes were quite sweet, but typically they're quite acidic. Break it all down with a spatula and you'll have plenty of water in the pan. At this point, you're going to increase the heat and cook it for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then once you've got that, we're going to go in with the spices. So we got 1 teaspoon cumin powder, we got 1 teaspoon and a bit of coriander powder, 1 teaspoon black pepper powder, about half a teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder. Now you can put about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of chili flakes, and also you can put 1 teaspoon of turmeric. It's completely optional in this case. So you're going to throw that in there and then again increase the heat a bit, mix it all through. It's going to be like quite watery at this point. But you're going to let that cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. Add in 4 green chilies. Now you can actually put in bullet chilies if you want, and also you can cut them open if you want more heat, but you got Kashmiri chili powder, you got chili flakes, and now you got chilies. So maybe you want to be a bit careful about how much heat you're putting in there. Then you're going to put the lid on and let that simmer for 10 minutes on medium heat, and whilst that's happening, we're just going to prepare the final bit. So we got a handful of fresh coriander, you're going to chop that up, and then we got some ginger as well. Now the ginger is just not the entire thing, but half of that. We don't need all of it. And I'm just going to, you can peel it. Some people use a spoon, I just use a knife to peel it, and then we're going to cut it thinly like this, and then we're going to stack them up, and then we're going to cut them so they're like thin buttons, or as the Americans might call it, batons. Now in terms of prepping ingredients, this is it. There's no more work to do, and it's what you've only prepped: tomatoes, coriander and ginger. That's it. We're going to remove the lid and you're going to cook that off for another minute or so, and then you're going to put in 1.5 tablespoons of natural yogurt. You can go maybe 2 or maybe 2.5, but I think 1.5 is sufficient. It works quite well. And then you're going to give it a mix, let that cook for like a minute, and then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of garam masala. Again, we're going to mix that through and we're going to cook that for another minute. Now the garam masala that I like using is this Supreme brand. It's like a red packet, but the flavor will change depending on which garam masala you have. Anyways, you're going to get the lid, put that on and let that simmer for about 10 minutes ish on medium heat. And then once that's done, look at that oil separation, guys. Look how good that looks. If you can bit of a zoom in, look at that. When the oil is like that on top, you know that the spices have what we call booned, or booned. And then I'm just going to give it a final shimmy like that, and we're going to do the finishing touches. So kasuri methi, this is dried fenugreek leaves. I'm basically breaking it up. Just going to add like this. Oh man, I love this. You add like a large pinch of it, the ginger, reserve some ginger slices as well for the end. Give it a bit of a mix, cook that off for like a minute, and you're gonna get this dry masala. You want it dry, so don't be concerned if it is dry. Remember, you're not adding any water to this. So you're gonna finish it off with some fresh coriander. I might have cut up too much coriander, guys, as you can see, but we're just gonna mix it through one final time, let that cook for like another minute, and then at this point it's ready basically. So we're gonna finish off with a tiny bit more coriander and some ginger slices to make it look a bit more presentable and aesthetically pleasing for the social media, and it's ready. So guys, now that you've seen how absolutely beautiful that dish looks, we're going to go through some tips and tricks on how you can make this entire thing perfect. So the first thing is, and it's the most important part right here, guys, it's the tomatoes. So because the entire thing is done with like a tomato base, the quality of your tomatoes is going to matter. So don't go out there getting salad tomatoes. Don't go out there getting smart price tomatoes or Tesco value or Sainsbury essential ones. None of that stuff. Get good premium tomatoes if you can. Sweeter the better. That's what you want, sweeter. In this recipe, I actually say that you can actually add a pinch of sugar if you want. That depends on how acidic your tomatoes are. How do you know how acidic the tomatoes are? Well, you gotta buy them, cut into them, and taste them. But in a normal curry, you can actually use onions to mellow out the dish if the tomatoes are a bit harsh or a bit tart, if you know what I'm saying. But in this particular instance, guys, I would say get sweeter tomatoes. A lot of people use like San Marzano tomatoes because they're quite sweet, and they also use tin tomatoes. I always advise against tin tomatoes. I think the acidity regulators and things like that kind of just affect the entire taste of the dish. Get large vine tomatoes that are sweet, voluptuous, and delicious. Now, guys, the second point is using chicken. So in this particular instance, guys, I use chicken breast. I would advise not to use chicken breast. The only reason I actually use chicken breast is because someone on my Instagram messaged me and said, can you make a curry with just chicken breast? Because I'm scared of bones. I don't think they said that, but I think that's what they were thinking. And that's why I did it. But what I would advise is basically what's written in my curry cookbook. Use either just chicken thighs or whole piece of chicken cut up into pieces. Because then you got different consistency of meat and cuts, but also using just chicken breast kind of like dries the dish out. When it comes to curry, it soaks in a lot of like the moisture and things like that and the oil. So yeah, that's what I would advise for chicken pieces. Don't copy what I did in this video with chicken breast. So number 3, guys, optional ingredients like turmeric and yogurt. So turmeric definitely adds a lot of flavor. I didn't add it in this case because I want to show that it can be done without it. But definitely put in like a teaspoon of turmeric if you want. Maybe just a bit less, 3/4 of a teaspoon. That works too. And the next thing is adding the yogurt. Now, actually adding the yogurt is like an authentic way of doing it. You're supposed to add yogurt. But what I would recommend is that don't add yogurt if your tomatoes are very tart. Because yogurt is like quite tangy, isn't it? But the yogurt actually helps mellow out the spices and the dish to bring it all together. Taste as you go. That's the best way to do it, man. And guys, the fourth and final point is that this dish does not use any water. So you can use like splashes of water if it's like burning or here and there, because it's all done like a high heat. On the last stage, the last 10 minutes where I say you can actually drop the heat to like a low medium and do it for 15 minutes. You can do that if you want. That will build a bit more moisture in the pan, make it a bit more saucy. But what I'm trying to say is that this dish doesn't actually use water, which means that the full dish itself is going to be quite dry-ish. So just make sure that you use plenty of oil, so about 6 to 7 tablespoons of oil, and that would make sure your dish isn't just like clumped together. And then, you know what I mean? Because in my curry, I'll show you right now, can you see how we're moving it around? That's because there's a decent amount of oil in the pan. There's no fluid, there's no water, but oil. If you didn't have that, it's going to taste a bit different. If you don't have enough oil, everything flipping steaming, then what you got? You got flipping steamed curry. That's not nice, that's a flipping stew. Anyways, guys, that's the entire curry done. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, guys, I just want to take the time to say that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that my curry cookbook is out. It's a digital cookbook. It's got this chicken karai recipe in there, lamb karai, and a bunch of other curries as well. And not even just curries, starters and other things like that. It's basically like a foundation to South Asian cuisine. So if you do want to upgrade your South Asian cuisine game, linked in description, go have a look.